Welcome to the next video on VLANs. Today we'll go over the lab portion of this, where we'll actually configure some VLANs and notice the behavior that happens within the network. So here's our setup right here. You can see we've got 4 computers and 2 switches. So our tasks, first it says verify connectivity among all 4 devices in the local area network. Now everything that's in here that's not split up with a router is in the same local area network and should be able to talk. Let's go ahead and hop into our PC0 and perform some ping tests in our command prompt. Let's go ahead and ping PC1 at 192.168.0.2. We can successfully talk to him. How about if we ping 192.168.0.3? Yep, we can communicate with that computer as well. And then lastly, ping 192.168.0.4. And absolutely, we can communicate with that computer as well. Perfect. Let's go ahead and look at our next task here. It says create 2 VLANs on each switch, a VLAN 10 and a VLAN 20. Okay, let's start off on switch 0. Go into our command line interface. Go ahead and get into our global configuration mode. We'll go ahead and say VLAN 10 and then VLAN 20. Right. So we've done that on that switch. Let's hop into the other switch now. Command line interface. Get into global configuration mode. VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. Perfect. Now, next task says in each switch, place port 1 into VLAN 10 and port 2 into VLAN 20. Alright. Let's hop over here. Let's go ahead and go interface F01, switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 10 for port 1. Let's go into interface F02, switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 20. Let's go ahead and make sure that while we're in here we bring those VLANs up by going to interface VLAN 10 and then interface VLAN 20. Now let's hop out of here into our other switch. Go ahead and run the same commands. Port 1 in VLAN 10, port 2 in VLAN 20. So interface F01, switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 10. And then interface F02, switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 20. Let's go ahead and hop into those. Interface VLAN 10 to bring them up. Interface VLAN 20. Perfect. So there's task 3. We've placed ports 1 and 2 on each switch into the correct VLANs. Now verify that the VLANs have been created and the ports are in the appropriate VLANs. Back to switch 0. Go ahead and get back to privileged exec mode. We can go show VLAN brief. Expand that so that it looks a little prettier. We can see our VLAN 10 that we created has port 1 and our VLAN 20 that we created has port 2. Hop into the other switch, widen it up, go ahead and back into privileged exec mode, show VLAN brief. We can see we have VLAN 10 with port 1 and VLAN 20 with port 2. Perfect, looks like we're doing good so far. Step 5, configure a trunk port between the switches that allows both VLANs to cross and set the native VLAN to VLAN 100. Hop into switch 0 here, back to global configuration mode. Go ahead and access that port, which is interface F03, as we can see on our diagram here, number 3. We'll go switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20 to allow both of those VLANs across it, and then switch port Whoop. Switch port trunk native VLAN 100. Okay. Hop out of that switch and into the next switch. Do the same thing. We'll go back into global configuration mode. Into that interface F03. Make it a trunk port, switch port mode trunk. Allow those two VLANs, 10 and 20. And then specify the native VLAN to 100. Awesome. That looks good. On to the next task, task 6. Verify the trunk configuration in each switch and that devices can only communicate with other devices in the same VLAN. Okay, let's do some show commands then. So right here, let's go ahead and do show interfaces trunk. We can see our port F03 is trunking, native VLAN of 100, and the allowed VLANs are 10 and 20. Hop over to our other switch. Go ahead and do show interface trunk. We can see as well port F03 is trunking, native VLAN of 100, and VLANs allowed on the trunk are 10 and 20. So if we hop out of here, we can go ahead and verify some connectivity. So if you remember, we put port 1 on each switch in VLAN 10. That would be PC2 and PC3. We put port 2 on each switch in VLAN 20, which is PC0 and PC2. So if I were to hop into PC0, I will be able to talk to PC2. I go up here, I go ahead and I go ping 192.168.0.3, which is the IP of PC2, and I can talk to him. But because I'm in a different VLAN than PC3, if I were to say ping 192.168.0.4, I would have no connectivity to that computer, so I wouldn't be able to communicate with it because I'm in a different VLAN, and we haven't implemented a router or anything to be able to talk between VLANs. So that, in a nutshell, was our VLAN lab. I hope that you were able to learn something from this. I hope that it helped answer any questions you might have had about VLANs. This was a very simple setup. Things will get more complex in the future, but this is sufficient for now. I hope you'll stick around for our next video, and we'll see you next time.